Wabash, the gentleman's rule. You gotta believe in that stuff. The Wabash always fight.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Don Morel Show, your chance to hear the thoughts and comments of the head football coach of the Little Giant program. And, Coach, it's a great week to be a member of the Little Giant football team because your team did an outstanding job on Saturday, an overtime 28-21 victory at Wittenberg, right back in the mix of the North Coast Athletic Conference Championship. And it just, I thought, and I know as a coach you're always going to look at some things, and it wasn't a perfect game, but it was the best execution I've seen out of this Wabash College football team all season long. Offense, defense, and special teams were really, really good on Saturday.
I think anytime you go to Wittenberg and win, that's a big moment.
Wittenberg took the early 7-0 lead, but then you came back with two really good drives in the closing minutes of the first half. You were able to take advantage of some short field to get one drive, a nice touchdown pass from Jake Reed to Oliver Page. Oliver ended the day with 2 touchdown receptions from Jake Reed. And then you also got a good drive that Isaac Avant capped off with a nice goal line plunge to get the football over the goal line for the touchdown. You took that lead into overtime or into halftime. You got a touchdown in the final minutes of the fourth quarter to take the 21-14 lead. Then the Tigers came back and got the game-tying touchdown. And then overtime really just was perfect execution by your team. You got a great pass from Matt Panola that we're going to see when we start the highlights here in a minute. And then the big run by Isaac Avant for his second touchdown of the day. And then, of course, he closes out with the interception from Jake Page. Your team, as I mentioned, just seemed to really play together all game long. When you broke down the film afterwards, what did you see that worked so well for your football team on Saturday?
Well, I think our defense, again, played outstanding. Jeff Ramsey and that whole staff, Brian Watson, Jeff Franklin, they've done a great job over there and really had Wittenberg's number. I think we did last year, too. We just couldn't score more than 14 points. So, no, the kids played well on both sides of the ball, and when we had to hit plays, we did.
Let's go ahead and take a look at highlights from that 28-21 overtime victory at Wittenberg on Saturday. Here we see one of the big gainers. You were able, what I felt was really key about the game, Wittenberg has an explosive offense, but you were able to keep their explosive plays to a minimum while you were able to generate some big offensive plays on offense.
We did, and then, I don't think we ran the ball super effectively, but we ran it enough to make some first downs, take time off the clock, and we just felt like if we could get into the fourth quarter of a tight football game, we would have a better chance of winning than they would.
Well, and I really thought the overall mix of plays where you would come out one series and start with a run and then go to the passing game. And then the next series, the overtime is a perfect example. You had started a couple of series in a row with an Isaac Avant run and then went up top. And then the overtime, you start immediately with the big pass to Matt Panola to get the ball down to the 10-yard line, and then came right back with Isaac, and he just found a wide open seam. The offensive line really created a great opening for Isaac, and he just walked it into the end zone.
Isaac had a great game. He also had a couple of key catches. The other guy we just could not play without is Matt Panola, who plays fullback, running back, tight end, and wide receiver. He played all 4 spots Saturday.
Well, and 5 because he also got a pass attempt in there.
He did throw a pass too, sure.
It was an interesting game because both coaches, you and Joe Fincham, you went deep into the playbook. They scored on a little gadget play. When we got close to the goal line, before we got the pass interference penalty that set up a new set of downs, went to a couple of different plays. I mean, is that what you see in games like this? Certainly think back to the Bell game last year when it's a big, important play, just trying to find ways to get the ball into the end zone.
It's just tough to run the ball in against Wittenberg. Their defensive front is outstanding, and you can beat your head against the wall and try and do it, but it's not going to work.
You talked about the defense with Jeff Ramsey and the job they did. You get 3 turnovers. Second week in a row, you play turnover-free football. And you were also able to, you and I talked about this after the game, 5 penalties total in the ball game. One of those was a delay of game penalty to set up a little better punting position. So your team was very disciplined all game long. Really, continued to keep yourself in a position to try and win that game.
We did. Very proud of the way the guys played, kept their composure, and playing at Wittenberg it's tough.
Well, and you also had some tough weather conditions. It was one of those days where you just had kind of a light, steady rain. It's been kind of an interesting weather year, but you never saw the weather really affect the Wabash players. No drop passes, no fumbles. Again, no turnovers in the ball game. And you really just played through it. I mean, it was a solid mental effort as much as it was a physical effort.
I think it was, and we hadn't beaten Wittenberg since 2015. We did not want to make it 3 in a row, but they were the 2-time defending champs. They had the big win streak at home, and it was just going to take our A game. You're looking at the celebration afterwards. Really want to thank all the Wabash fans that came to the game. The SIG guys had 1 million guys there. That was critical in the overtime. We wanted to go into our fan base, and that really helped. It carried us at the end.
Now, excuse me there for just a moment.
Sure.
Go through some numbers. Isaac Avant with 20 carries for 69 yards. We mentioned the 2 touchdowns. Jake Reed was 16 of 28 for 208 yards and 2 scores. Oliver Page with 9 receptions, 94 yards, the 2 touchdowns as well. And then the defensive numbers. You created 7 tackles for loss, got the only sack of the ball game. And again, we've seen in the past where it's been a Wittenberg defense that's really put the pressure on the quarterback. You made things uncomfortable for Jake Kennedy all day, got him off of his spots, and I think that helped lead, along with great defensive back play, to some of those interceptions.
I think we did, and we did most of that with a 3-man rush.
Lucas Pusina did a great job getting inside. We saw Blair Brody. Brandon Yagi just continues. Every week you don't think he can play any better, and he just continues to play well. A great game for Jackson Garrett. He had 11 tackles again, and of course, we have to mention Jackson had his 2nd interception of the season on Saturday, and then the Defensive Player of the Week for the North Coast Athletic Conference, the D3 Football Team of the Week member, Jake Page with 2 interceptions, a big one in the 4th quarter to help Wabash stay ahead at the time, and then had that big interception on the final play of overtime. But just really, he continues to play well all season.
He did, and I think the big question going into the game was how our secondary would hold up against their skill group. And obviously they did phenomenally well, and when you think about it, it's a freshman, 2 sophomores, and a junior. That's a good group.
Well, and they were facing a very veteran quarterback in Jake Kennedy. You mentioned the big win streak. We ended a 21 consecutive games during the regular season with wins for Wittenberg, snapped that streak. Jake Kennedy was also trying to become the first Wittenberg quarterback to win 3 games against Wabash, so you prevent him from being able to do that. And more importantly, the positives for Wabash, now tied with Wittenberg and Denison at the top of the conference standings, but you've got some tough games left.
We do. It's Wednesday. We've moved on. Allegheny is a good football team. B.J. Hammer would love to beat his alma mater. There's no doubt about that. And they can do it. So we need to get our ship moving in the right direction.
Well, and that's a perfect segue for us. You've got an Allegheny team that comes in this Saturday, 5-3 overall. It is their first guaranteed non-losing season since 2012. The turnaround job that B.J. Hammer has done there with that group of young men has been phenomenal. And we saw it last year. It was a last team with the football wins in a 48-41 victory for us at Allegheny. They're a team that can put a lot of points on the board, but they can also keep you from putting points up, so it's a tough team to play.
It is. Defensively, obviously, B.J. knows what he's doing, and we're going to have to be ready to, for us to win every week, we have to play our best game. The C game will not do it. We have to play the A game.
Well, and definitely against this Allegheny team, you're going to be tested. What impressed me against Wittenberg, they have some good speedy receivers, and a lot of times they like to get the ball to them early around the line of scrimmage. And you limited the yards after the catch on Saturday. That's something that you're going to have to do again, because Alex Victor is a really good wide receiver, but he may be the fastest wide receiver in the conference. He is just unbelievably quick, slippery, and he can turn a pass for 1 yard into a 90-yard touchdown run with a reception. How do you keep someone like that? You know, you had to do that with Jeff Tiffner on Saturday. Now you see it again with Alex Victor. What do you have to do to try and keep a wide receiver like that from causing a lot of damage?
Well, last year we put 2 guys on him, and I still think he had 200 yards receiving against us. So we're going to put 3 or 4. He's just super dynamic. I hate to admit it, he's fun to watch. He's just athletically so much more gifted than anybody else on the field. So we've got to know where he is all the time. Allegheny does a nice job of putting him at wide receiver, motioning him out of the backfield. He's the inside receiver. He's the outside. So we've got to prepare for all of that.
I'm kind of probably like you. 9 times out of the season, I love watching him play football. It's just that 1 week that I prefer he not make the trip.
Right.
Allegheny, a 20-19 winner last week over DePaul, so they come in with a 2-game winning streak, actually, a victory over Kenyon the week before. But they're more than just one good wide receiver. They've got a very good running back in Tyler Bala. Their quarterback is a veteran in Logan Lee. And, again, with a B.J. Hammer defense, you know what you're going to face. They will bring anyone from anywhere at any time and put a lot of pressure on your quarterback.
No, we've got to prepare for all of that. And I think one thing we've done well is we've moved on from the previous game. We had good practice yesterday, and we need to have a few more to really be ready to play this football game.
This comes, of course, at an interesting time. We talked about it a few weeks ago, that the back half of this schedule is going to be a real test for your football team. You pass that test with wins over Ohio Wesleyan, and now with a win over Wittenberg, win over a feisty, if not small, Oberlin team. This game kind of sets itself up to possibly be a bit of a trap game. You've got all the attention with the Wittenberg game on the road. The stands are up. Ticket sales are going well. You've got all the people making plans for tailgating for the game next week. You can't overlook, I know your players won't, I know you won't as coaches, but the fans could have a tendency to, well, it's Allegheny. They've really not been a test in the past, but this is a completely different Allegheny football team. How does your team get its mental focus? You've already talked about putting the Wittenberg game behind you, but not getting too far ahead with all the excitement that the fans have around the DePaul game.
In the 3 years I've been a head coach, and the 7 years I've been here, I've not had a team do as well focusing on one opponent. It doesn't mean we're going to play great, but the kids really put their all into the week's opponent. And we saw that yesterday. I was really impressed with practice. And then, again, hopefully we get it today and tomorrow. The other thing, going back to the Wittenberg game, that was great. It was great to have Oliver Page back on the field. It is. We are different on offense when Oliver is out there. And he had missed the 3 previous games. So it's good to have that guy back on the field.
There's another person I don't want to get away without mentioning. What a great job the freshman Joey Ane did, stepping in the punting role, taking over that role now. Joey didn't look like a freshman out there punting. He really did a nice job in a tough circumstance.
Joey is a pretty cool customer, and he changed the direction of the field several times, especially in the third quarter, which I felt like was just building more and more pressure on Wittenberg. And I just think we couldn't get him at the end of regulation, but finally in overtime, I think it broke them.
Saturday's game, a 1 o'clock start against Allegheny. That'll be here at Howlett Little Giant Stadium, the road portion of the regular season complete. So 2 home games now for Wabash. Kickoff is at 1 o'clock. Tickets are available at wabashtickets.com. We'll have the game for you live on the air. Jim Amadon, Steve Hoffman will have the call for you beginning at about 12:40 with the pregame show. That'll be this very Don Morel show that you're watching. And then we'll have all the action from Howlett Little Giant Stadium. And then, of course, 1 week from now, it'll be the Monon Bell game. We'll tell you all about that next week. But if you need information about tailgating, about tickets that are still available, parking information, security, all of that is available at sports.wabash.edu/125th Monon Bell Classic. You can also get to that link on the Wabash College football schedule page. And then if you still want to try and get tickets, tickets are selling out quickly on the Wabash side. There are still a few available, but you need to get them quickly. Those are available at wabashtickets.com as well. We hope to see you Saturday for the Allegheny game, and certainly hope to see you for the Bell game. Coach, as always, best of luck on Saturday. I know we'll welcome BJ with a hug and a handshake, but unfortunately we'll also hopefully send him home with a loss and keep this team rolling into the Bell game.
Sure. Thank you.
Coach, thanks for your time this afternoon. We'll talk to you next week. You've been watching The Don Morel Show. It's your chance to hear the thoughts and comments of the head football coach of the Little Giant program. We will talk to you next week.
Wabash, the gentleman's rule. You gotta believe in that stuff. The Wabash always fight.